Operation Overlord. The 1944 Allied invasion of Western Europe culminated from 5 years of armed struggle against the Axis juggernaut, but the odds seemed stacked against the successful storming of Hitler's robust beach defenses.
To ensure victory, the Allies convinced Hitler that the invasion would take place at Pas de Calais. They did this using an elaborate system of hoaxes and deception to trick the Nazis, including fake armies, dummy landing craft, and false intelligence. These hoaxes were part of Operation Bodyguard, which was the overall Allied strategic plan in Europe for 1944. It was carried out as part of the build-up to the invasion of Normandy. The major goal of this plan was to get the Germans to believe that the invasion of northwestern Europe would happen later than was actually planned, and to threaten locations other than Normandy.
One of the most interesting of these plans involved the creation of a dummy force, one with virtually no troops and no firepower, one whose success would rely solely on deception and trickery. The three objectives of Bodyguard were to get the German command to believe that the main assault would be in or east of the Pas de Calais, which would encourage the Axis to increase the strength of its forces in the wrong areas, to keep the enemy in doubt of the time and date of the invasion, and to hold up the largest possible amount of German forces for 14 days.
But before the largest amphibious invasion in history could occur, preparations had to be made. Provisions for the hundreds of thousands of troops were shipped in from the United States.
Allied troops were sent to Britain, where they underwent extensive physical training needed to meet the Axis forces head-on and defeat them. This was the largest build-up for an amphibious invasion that has ever occurred. Allied commanders were so concerned that the Axis would not believe the hoax that they even studied past invasions to see what they could use.
On June 4th, Allied troops were sent out of Britain and made their way to Normandy, France. If Operation Bodyguard worked, then the invasion will be met with little resistance. If not, Allied forces will be crushed.
The landing points chosen were the beaches of Normandy, France. They were divided into 5 sections, each given its own code name: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. The U.S. Army landed on both Utah and Omaha, while the joint British and Canadian forces took Gold, Juno, and Sword.
At 6:30 a.m., Allied forces stormed Normandy. It was relatively swift, with the Allies meeting little resistance with the exception of Omaha. Luckily, the Axis powers fell for the trick played on them, leaving the soldiers defending the beach poorly reinforced. It was on this day that the tide of the war was turned in favor of the Allies.
If not for the clever and cunning minds of the Allied commanders, Central Europe may have been an unachievable goal for the Allies to retake from the Axis, and many more lives would have been lost. In the end, Operation Overlord was a major American victory, which boosted the morale of the American people and eventually led to the end of the German Empire.
On the following evening of June 6, 1944, President Roosevelt gave the following prayer over national radio.
Last night, when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass with success thus far. And so, in this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph.
Professor Weldon here. If you follow me over here, Professor Wish is actually working on one of the tanks that was recovered. Professor Wish, are you there? Oh, I hear you still talking about it right now.
Hello. You see, us and a couple of our panelists of experts, we actually recreated one of these dummy tanks. And as you can see, they were very crude and very poorly made, but even the most useless, unskilled of our grunts could man them. And they were very useful in deceiving German spy planes, and they were very instrumental in Operation Bodyguard, which of course is a part of Operation Overlord.
As you can see here, it was very difficult to differentiate between these dummy tanks and the real tanks. Even from a mere 50 yards away, as seen in this aerial view, it could still be puzzling whether or not these were actual tanks.